Shalom, family. I was asked by some on my comments, those who read my comments, I was asked by some of them to do a video on fringes. And in my intro, I said that I would make it my first video, my first real video, I would definitely do on fringes because one of the questions always coming to me is, do we have to wear fringes today? Based on the many videos that our brethren see and on YouTube, with the brothers out there in the streets, showing the ribbon of blue and the fringes on the borders. And some of the brethren want to know if it is a command that we have to do this. Unless I decided I would really look into the scriptures and bring it out to the brethren to show whether we have to wear fringes today or not. So let's go. Let's go. Let's look first at the scriptures. Numbers 15, 38 to 40. And as we read, we see it says, speak unto the children of Israel and bid them that they make them fringes in the borders of their garment throughout their generations, and that they may put upon fringes of the borders of a ribbon of blue. And it shall come to pass unto you for a fringe, that you may look upon it and remember all the commandments of God, and do them, and that you may seek not after your own heart and your own eyes, after which you used to go a whoring. 40, that ye may remember and do all my commandments, and be holy unto your God. Now this was the command given to Israel to put on the border of blue and the fringes, that they may remember the commandments. Now clearly we know the history of our people, and we know this did not work. Down the road they forgot, and I want to show you something that is said in Judges concerning that they didn't remember. They not only didn't remember the commandments, but they didn't even remember the Most High. And let's look at Numbers, at Judges. Let's look at Judges chapter 8, and we can look at Judges 8 34 to see that the time came that far from remembering the commandments, they didn't even remember the Most High. And it says, and the children of Israel remembered not the Lord their God, who had delivered them out of the hands of all the enemies on every side. So it is clear to see that from this scripture that the ribbon of blue and the fringes didn't cause them to remember the commandments nor the Most High. But like anything else, our Father always have a plan. You may call it a backup plan. And this backup plan was first mentioned in Jeremiah chapter 31. Jeremiah 31, and we're going to read verse 31. 31, Jeremiah 31. And verse 31 said, and behold, the days come, said the Lord, that I will make a new covenant with the house of Israel and with the house of Judah, not according to the covenant that I made with their fathers in the day I took them by the hand to bring them out of the land of Egypt, which my covenant they break, although I was an husband unto them, said the Lord. But this is the covenant that I will make with the house of Israel after those days, said the Lord. I will put my laws in their inward parts, and write them in their hearts, and I will be to them, I will be their God, and they shall be my people. Now, it is clear that this new covenant announced, prophesied by Jeremiah, that is to come upon our people down the road, from the time of Jeremiah forward, was obviously a better move by our Father, because he know that something on cloth on the outside didn't stop people from committing adultery. It didn't stop people from killing. It didn't stop them from sacrificing their children into the fire and all these other wicked things that Israel did to the Lord in those days. So therefore we decide the change must be that the heart must be changed. As he said to Moses in Deuteronomy, the foreskin of the heart must be changed, and he must do something different than to what was done before. The fringes on the outside with the ribbon of blue, that didn't work. And therefore he decided he would do something different. He would do something new. And thus we have the newness coming up in the book of Hebrews, in the New Testament, in the book of Hebrews, chapter 8, and from verse 8, the Apostle Paul announced concerning the new covenant that God would make, that Jeremiah prophesied about. And the Apostle Paul says in Hebrews 8 and verse 8, for finding fault with them, he said, behold, the days come, said the Lord, when I will make a new covenant with the house of Israel and with the house of Judah, not according to the covenant that I made with their fathers in the day when I took them by the hand to lead them out of the land of Egypt, because they continued not in my covenant, and I regard them not, said the Lord. And we know the many times that they was taken into other nations and overthrown, because of the fact that they turn against and turn away from our Father. And we know that this is as a result. So thus he brings in something new and something better for Israel, the people who belongs to him. These are his children, and he is looking out for their interests. Now, so he finds fault because they turn away, and he said, I'm going to make a new covenant. And it's not according to the old one, because the old one they said we will do, but they didn't do. And now he says, for this is the new covenant I will make with the house of Israel after those days. I will put my laws in their minds, and I will write them in their hearts. And I will be to them a God, and they shall be to me a people. Now, instead of now as on ribbon of blue and fringe to remember that they would remember the commandments, now the difference now is that he writes the commandments in the heart and place it in the mind. And if something is in your heart and in your mind, you must think about it. It is there for you to think about. But let's see how he do it. And let's go over to 2 Corinthians chapter 3. We can go to 2 Corinthians 3 to see how it is, how the Apostle Paul says it is done. 2 Corinthians 3, and reading from verse 3. And hear what he says. For as much as ye are manifestly declared to be the epistles of Christ, ministered by us, written not with ink, but with the Spirit of the living God, not in tables of stone, but in the fleshy tables of the heart. Now, so what he has done is, instead of writing the commandments on stone as he did when he gave it to our ancestors first, in this dispensation of the Messiah, he writes the commandments in our heart by his Spirit. And that is why this is much better today, because we have the Spirit in us that is greater than our own thoughts or minds, and that will not just are there to remind us of the commandments of God, but also there to lead us into all truth, as he said. And let's turn with me to John chapter 16 and see what the Spirit does. John 16 and verse 13 says, howbeit, when he, the Spirit of truth, is come, he will guide you into all truth, for he shall not speak of himself, but whatsoever he hear, that shall he speak, and he will show you things to come. He shall glorify me, for he shall receive of mine, and shall show unto you. Now, so the Spirit of truth that the Most High has given to those who believe brings the commandments to our minds and write them in our heart, that we would always remember. And we're talking here of the 10 commandments. We would always remember from 1 to 10, and when we are in our walk, in our daily walk, we would know the do's and the don'ts. And as a result of this guidance, not only with the 10 commandments, but in all truth, the Spirit would lead us. And I think this is far more beneficial to us today than fringes or ribbon of blue. In fact, I am often asked, when people hear my stance against it, they ask me, so what about these guys on the streets? Why are they there with that? Well, I simply look at this. Let's look with me to Matthew chapter 23, and here the Messiah, and hear what he says. Matthew 23, um, and verse 5, and he says, "But all their works they do for to be seen of men. They make broad their phylacteries and enlarge large the borders of their garments." Now he's saying that the people doing these things today, seeing that he have put the law in the spirit and put it in the hearts of the believers, and yet there are brothers out there doing this thing and have these fringes. They exalt the fringes that's so special today, when in truth and in fact, they're not relevant. Not today. They're not relevant because they can't be as great as the spirit. And they can make you remember better than the spirit can make you to remember. So therefore, right now it's just a show. I tell my people all the time, it's just a show these guys have for people to see them. And here Christ is saying, before he left here, to some of the Israelites did the same thing. All they did it for was to be seen of men. This is not what he wants us to do. We're not on show. He wants us to show forth our righteousness. He wants us, when it speaks of love, he says, "By these men will know that you are my disciples if you love one another." And therefore, he's asking us to exalt love more so than anything else. And this love entails doing good one to another. And therefore, we're not interested in showing fringes and ribbon of blue on the streets, or showing it off for people to see. We're interested in showing that love one to another, that people can see and know that truly that we are his disciples. I want to thank you, and much more videos will be coming up. There are many topics that I've been asked to do, and I'll be doing more in the future. But for now, I want to thank you, and I hope that when you listen to this and you look at the scriptures, you would really see that it is not about a show, but it is about exalting righteousness and truly accepting the goodness of the Lord by giving us his spirit and putting the commandment in that said same spirit of truth. Bye for now. Thank you.